In today's math lesson, while discussing linear equations, we are going to solve for y. Our goal is to rearrange whatever linear equation that we are handed so that it will be in the format of y equals mx plus b when we are done with it. Let's find out how to do this. If your equation has parentheses in it, let's use these 3 steps to help solve for y equals mx plus b. The first step to help you be successful in solving any equation is usually to draw the river or a line through the equal sign to separate the left and right sides of your equation. Then you will distribute whatever number is in front of the parentheses through every term in the parentheses by way of multiplication. Finally, you will add or subtract, doing the opposite of what's currently happening or being shown in the problem. Whatever number, whatever term is there with the y on its side of the river, back across the river so that the y can be alone. Steps for solving your equation for y if you don't have any parentheses. Now, parentheses or not, always start by drawing the river down through the equal sign. Just do that so that you can see very clearly the left side versus the right side of your equation. If there is an x term on the same side of the river as the y, then you need to add or subtract that entire x term by doing its opposite back across the river so that you can get y alone. Finally, if necessary, if y has a number in front of it, then you need to get rid of that number by multiplying or dividing. Do the opposite of what it's doing right now to get that number, that coefficient, back across the river to the other side of the equation so that y can be alone. Let's practice. Example 1. Rewrite the following equation in slope-intercept form where y plus 2 is equal to negative x minus 1. First things first, draw the river through the equal sign. Okay, we have parentheses in this problem, so our steps helping to guide us from the introduction with the parentheses after we've drawn the river says to distribute through the parentheses whatever number is in front of the parentheses by multiplying. All right, well, we have a negative in front of the parentheses. So we are going to distribute this negative through both terms inside of the parentheses. On the left side of the equation is our y plus 2 waiting its turn quietly. A negative times a positive is a negative x. All right? And then we have a negative 1 times another negative 1. You might be asking, where's the second 1 coming from? Well, from previous lessons, we learned that if there is no visible number there in front of an x or in front of parentheses, then it is understood that there is a 1 there. Oh, okay. Let's continue forward. So y plus 2 is still waiting its turn to be used. But we have this negative 1 times a negative 1 to deal with. So let's do that. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Okay. So now we've done step 1, draw the river. Step 2 of distributing through the parentheses. Great. Step 3, add or subtract. Do the opposite across the river. So here is y plus 2. I need to get rid of the 2 by doing its opposite. So I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides of the river. And as a result, we are going to see that y is equal to negative x, and then plus 1, positive 1 minus 2 ends up equaling negative 1. So y equals negative x minus 1. All solved for y equals mx plus b. And there you go. Example 2. Rewrite the following equation in slope-intercept form where we were given y plus 10 is equal to 1/10 times the quantity of x minus 10. First things first, gotta draw that river. It is so helpful. Just make it easy for your eyes. All right, so now that we see that our original problem does have a set of parentheses in it, we know that our next step is to go ahead and distribute this 1/10 through both of the terms inside of those parentheses. Let's see what that looks like. Y plus 10 on the left, waiting its turn. 1/10 times x is 1/10 x, okay? Minus the 10 times our 1/10. Now, if these fractions begin to make you nervous, that's fine. You can practice using your fractions, or you can pull out a handy-dandy calculator to help you out. Let's clean this up. Y plus 10 is equal to our 1/10 x minus, what is the product of 10 times 1/10? Well, it happens to be minus 1. That's just what it is for this particular set of numbers that we are working with. Okay, so now that we have distributed through the parentheses, we need to finish this off by getting y alone, and we have a plus 10 that needs to be gotten rid of. So you do the opposite and thus subtract 10 across the river so that our 10s cancel out, leaving us with y equals 1/10 x. I have a minus 1 minus 10 more, making minus 11. So our final equation, y equals 1/10 x minus 11. And there you go. Example 3. Rewrite the following equation in slope-intercept form, having been given y minus 4 equals 3 times the quantity of x minus 2. Have you drawn your river yet through the equal sign? I sure hope so. Okay, so we do have a coefficient all the way out in front of the parentheses that we are going to now distribute through the parentheses, giving us y minus 4 on the left side of the equation. 3 times x is 3x minus 2 times that 3. Remember, the 3 has to multiply to both of the terms inside of the parentheses. Let's see. Let's got to clean it up just a little bit. Y minus 4, waiting its turn to be used. 3x, bring that down. And then we have a negative 2 times a positive 3. And hopefully you remember that a negative times a positive is a negative, and 2 times 3 is 6. Great. So we are ready for our final step, where we just need to get rid of the minus 4. So I have y minus 4, and do the opposite to get rid of this 4. So the opposite of subtracting is adding. And what you do on one side of the river, yep, you have to do to the other. We do this so that the 4s will cancel out, creating for us y equals 3x, but we have negative 6 plus 4. So negative 6 plus 4 is a negative 2. Thus, our final equation in slope-intercept form is y equals 3x minus 2. And there you go. Example 4. Rewrite the following equation in slope-intercept form, having been given y plus 6 is equal to 1/3 times the quantity of x plus 6. I know that you have drawn your river. I just know it in all of my being. I sure hope you have. It is helpful. It's tedious. It's not hard. It's easy. All right, bringing down your y plus 6, as we do have a set of parentheses where I need to distribute the 1/3 through to both terms inside the parentheses. So 1/3 times x is 1/3 x plus 6 times that 1/3. Again, if fractions make you nervous, not a problem. You can either practice working through them by hand, or you can get out a handy dandy calculator. So y plus 6 being brought down, waiting its turn. 1/3 x being brought down. And then we are going to multiply. So 6 times 1/3 is plus 2. It's a positive 2. Great. All right, so now we have y plus 6, and I need to get the y alone. So we're going to do the opposite and subtract 6 from both sides of the river, because what you do on one side, yep, you got to do to the other. And we do this so that our 6's will cancel out, leaving us with y equals 1/3 x. And 2 minus 6 happens to be -4. Thus, our final equation in slope-intercept form is y equals 1/3 x minus 4. And there you go. For our fifth and final example, we're going to rewrite the following equation in slope-intercept form, having been given 7x minus 20y equals 20. So this equation looks a little different than the other ones that we've worked through in this lesson, but we still started by drawing our river. Gotta have that river. It's just helpful for your brain, for your thoughts to stay organized. Now, we do not have any parentheses, and thus we don't need to distribute anything in this problem. Okay. We do have, however, two terms here on the left. We have the y term to contend with, but we also have an x term to deal with. We saw in the introduction that if you have multiple terms over here on the left, you need to subtract the non-y term, which would be the 7x, or add it, whichever you're going to do is the opposite of what's happening right now. This 7x is currently positive, so the opposite of a positive is a negative 7x. And what you do on one side, yep, you do that to the other side also. The purpose of this is to make the 7x's cancel out, leaving you with negative 20y equals, now this 7 has an x on it, but the 20 does not have an x. Therefore, you cannot combine these to say 20 minus 7 is 13. No, you don't. This is just going to be negative 7x, and our 20 is positive, so we put plus 20. So we have moved the entire x term across the river, and now we are going to get the y all the way alone. Since I have a coefficient in front of the y, our negative 20, a coefficient is always multiplying to the variable that it is in front of, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So every term, 2 in this case, on the right side of the river is going to be divided by the negative 20. We do this so that the negative 20s on the left side of the river will cancel out, leaving y all alone and positive. Yes, since that 20 was negative, I divide by a negative 20. The only action that we are canceling out, that we are undoing, is the multiplying, not the sign itself. All right. Here we are, finishing up. Let's clean and tidy this up. So a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 7 divided by 20 does not reduce. So this is positive 7/20 x. And then a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And as the case would be, 20 divided by 20 happens to be 1. Here we are, finally at the end of our equation being brought into slope-intercept form, where y equals 7/20 x minus 1. And there you go.